A todos, soy Ignacio Maroto, el Provost de Westfield. Es un placer teneros en esta sesión, en este keynote. Voy a pasar al inglés. Los que queráis podéis utilizar la traducción. Hay un botón de interpretación y solo con clicar en el botón ya podréis oír la voz del traductor. All right, so I'm going to switch to English so that Chenyang can understand what I'm saying. As I was saying, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all to this keynote session. We are going to have the opportunity to have Professor Chenyang Xu speak about the subject of leading in times of crisis, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Professor Chenyang Xu. I'm going to let Rafael de Cárdenas introduce him. Rafa is head of academics in Prisma. And it's a pleasure for me also to have him with us today. Hello, Rafa.
Hello, Ignacio. Thank you very much.
All right. So maybe you can introduce Chenyang, and we can start the session. Everyone has the access to the chat. Probably Rafa is going to speak about that. So you can all leave your comments and they can be in Spanish. There's no need for the chat to be in English. And we will follow it and translate it when necessary to Chenyang. So Rafa, maybe you can introduce our keynote speaker today.
Thank you, Ignacio. Bueno, muchas gracias a todos. Es un placer de verdad teneros en esta sesión y en honor a nuestro invitado hoy voy a pasar al inglés, pero bueno, como bien dice Ignacio, en la parte de interpretación abajo de traducción podéis seguir todo el discurso en español o en inglés, como prefiráis. Bueno, paso al inglés. Muchas gracias. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Chenyang, a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Let me say you a brief, you have information about Chenyang, but let me give you like a brief introduction of who is here with us, right? When I say it's a true honor, it's because I really believe that Chenyang is one of those people, those few people in the world that are very knowledgeable about the challenges the world is facing right now from every perspective, and also about what are the potential ways to come up with solutions to everything that is happening. Is a person with the vision, with the knowledge, and with the wisdom also to understand the traditional business way of doing business and also the new way of doing business. Chenyang is co-founder of Silicon Valley Future Academy with headquarters in Silicon Valley, in California, United States. He's founding and co-chair for the Innovation Executive Forum. And he is also in his, good and successful career in the corporate world. He's been also general manager and chief technology officer for Siemens, the huge German company for Siemens technology to business in Silicon Valley. Chenyang is going to talk to us about many things, many of the things that are happening in the world. But it's very interesting to understand how he believes that open innovation, starts being a strategic imperative for large corporations in order to succeed in its digital transformation journey. There's inspiration from many startups that are leading the way of digital technologies, but there's many learnings that we can get from those experiences. And Chenyang is going to give us some introduction and hints and insights about how to do that. Chenyang, it's great to have you here. With COVID-19, we are all like in the middle of this very ambiguous and unstable, uncertain world, as you are. But I'm sure that being here together, it's a way for all of us to feel that we are united and we can solve any single challenge that humanity is facing, particularly these smart people that are following, and are studying in these MBAs. They have that energy to try and see how to change this world. You know, the motto of our school is people, planet, profit. So we really care about the planet. We really care about the society and the people, all the constituencies and the stakeholders around the organization. And of course, we care about profits because it's the engine for everything. Thank you for being here. It's a true pleasure. It's an honor. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rafa. I really appreciate that introduction. And hola, hola, everyone. I apologize. I cannot speak Spanish to you. And so unfortunately, I have to deliver the talk in English. So my daughter is trying to teach me some Spanish, so I'm still a long way to go. So with that, let me see if I can get the slides shared. 1 second. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes, we can.
Right, so
yes.
Session, the topic is leading in the times of crisis. You know, I think crisis is a word that actually is quite, you know, on one side is very real. So we see a lot of jobs loss, you know, pain. On the other side can be very abstract. In particular for us as the business leaders, it can, you know, we need some actionable insights that we can act on that rather than being paralyzed by the crisis. So that's why the topic I chose today is really about open innovation and digital transformation in the times of crisis. Obviously, the big elephant in the room, we have two crises going on for a lot of companies. One is the COVID-19. The second one is digital transformation. Many traditional companies, you know, have found very hard to keep in the pace of transformation and changes, both because of the faster competitors and also new, agile, more innovative entrants. And so that's really a big crisis. The COVID-19 just made that even harder. So, you know, I think, you know, this is a picture from a Star Trek episode called Strange New World. Actually, I'm a big Trekkie fan. And then in that episode, actually, the crew landed in a planet just like Earth, even more beautiful. But then after they thought, you know, it was a paradise, then something went wrong, right? There was something in the air, which is basically like a virus, right? We're facing today. And then their crew actually almost died and they're in danger. But when I watched that, actually it was before COVID, you know, I felt that's pretty science fiction. But then a month later, you know, we got COVID-19. In fact, we have many people died. You know, as of today, yesterday, you know, more than, you know, 857,000 people died, and then with 25 million people, you know, affected. So it's no longer science fiction. This is a magnitude even more crisis than what the science fiction was able to even envision in the Star Trek. And so this is a big thing we're facing. Now, we all know things get weird, right? You know, in fact, you know, everybody has to go online. Most of the brick and mortar university are finding hard to adjust. You know, I'm on the board of BME Department of Hopkins, and it's challenging. And also Stanford here, you know, is having a hard time, and Harvard, you know, deciding to go online. In a sense that the world actually come more to the Westfield way of doing it. So, and you guys are more well, you know, positioned to take on this while others are scrambling. So I'm going to just paint a few pictures about how strange I see. Everybody sees from each other, you know, side, but I think this will calibrate for the talk. You know, another thing is to look at the COVID-19 economic impact, right? You know, this is actually from the July, actually, the IMF. And the global economy will contract about the -5%, you know, and then the advanced economy has contracted even more. And then the emerging market at the time, it was less. And then there was a hope next year will be rebounded. But, you know, I think there's a lot of uncertainty until the vaccine story become clear at scale. One of the things is actually just since that report in the last month, in a number of developing countries, particularly India, the rate has shot up very high. And now the projection for the GDP in the next quarter, I think, will be contracted you know, like 20-some% or even more. So therefore, this picture is by far not a certain picture. And, you know, we'll see. I think will keep changing. The other thing is unemployment rate in US. You know, since the last 5 months, there are 57 million Americans filed unemployment rate, lost their jobs. At the peak, there was around March to early April, 15% unemployment rate at the peak. And that's the highest since the Great Depression. And so the strange thing is, on the other side, we see the stock market had a big dip, 34%, fastest drop since Great Depression, and from the peak. This is S&P, and then as of yesterday, it actually has come back quite strongly. And although today we have a big dip, but overall it has been really a quite quick recovery. And stock market, obviously, people think may predict a V recovery, but I think most of the people in a leadership position disagree, and more thinking is more Fed, pumping money and kind of inflated this. In any case, it's kind of strange, it's decoupling, but the real economy is struggling, right? And a lot of retailers are going for bankruptcy. Of course, in April, Neiman Marcus, filed, actually in May, bankruptcy. And more recent, there's a lot more have been following the suit, including the recent one. I think JCPenney is also prepared to do that. So, and also we see, new behavior, which would considered impossible before, now became more like a new norm. Like people are now routinely fired over Zoom, and we also have CEOs assume job over the video. And then Twitter, obviously, was the first one announced people will work from home permanently, and many companies follow the suit. Even like Siemens now worldwide is allow working from home, like 3 days from home and longer time, and for 360,000 employees worldwide. So also, on the court in Texas is holding jury trial, right, by Zoom, right? So there's more and more like that. So the world is very different, truly from, what we have known before. But I think we are into it for, almost 6 months. It's kind of feeling like a new norm, and people find a way to cope it. Business starting to kind of reopen, but it's still very strange. But there's another crisis going on, which I called for most companies is actually, it's COVID made it worse. It's the digital transformation. And this has already started for the, I would argue last 10 years has accelerated tremendously. I met, worked and met with CEOs and business leaders from many traditional industries. And then they have really felt the challenge coming from digital disruption. Now, this is a chart, about Tesla, and everybody knows in early this year, Tesla market cap, has shot up tremendously at 135 billion, and on February 6th, that's $53 billion more than the GM and Ford combined. At that time, looks like this is, pretty crazy, because I gave that talk at the CEO forum at Stanford. But if we look at today, yesterday, September 2nd, Tesla has shot up even more. It's a whopping $273 billion increase to 408 billion. Today has come down, but this is a huge up. But if you look at GM Ford combined, it fought down even further, 12 billion. Obviously, this is more investor betting about the future, and they're way more bullish about Tesla. And Tesla has been holding very well in the COVID, in their vehicle delivery. But nevertheless, obviously, this is not, we don't know the future, and there are still different schools of thought. Something Tesla, will still crash, and something Tesla will go on to dominate the automotive market. The jury is still out. But I think the key thing is looking at competitive advantage. A lot of people early on has been thinking Tesla advantages in the battery. It's an electric vehicle. Those are big advantage and defendable barriers. But I would argue the biggest defendable barriers over all the other automotive is the digital transformation, what Tesla is leading. Start with connected cars, right? From the very beginning, Tesla has the, OTA update, which is the over the air, right? Every time there was a new feature, you can push the software to the car, and then the car has brand new features. And many of the mechanical parts can also be adjusted, and as if you have an upgraded car. So Tesla actually keep delivering new value, and then to the car, to the existing owner. That's why their retention, their reselling price is significantly more than other competitors. And then obviously autonomous driving, Tesla is leading, but also the way Tesla manufacturing, like digital factory. And Tesla actually has continued to be innovating on that because it doesn't have a legacy. And then also on how it reaches the customer, how it sell the digital marketing. So it's really a coherent digital strategy that make Tesla much more effective. And so that's why really I think it's a good example for that. For automotive industry, it's hard to really challenge Tesla. You know, the gap is just get bigger and bigger. Now, on the other side, the digital revolution is disrupting every industry. I think we all know about that. And you know, from store to e-store, we have experienced that. And Amazon just gets more and more powerful. And also from taxi to ride sharing, you know, this is just the last 5 years, I think, become dominant everywhere on the globe. And then also from cash to mobile pay. I mean, here, obviously, everywhere in the world, we use mobile pay a lot, you know, like Apple Pay, you know, or others. But in China, it's almost, you know, the biggest economy in the world goes cashless. The joke is that even a beggar needs to have a WeChat account because nobody carries the cash. So this is pretty dramatic how quickly the money payment was moved. And also, I just pick another example, which perhaps less known, is even on the gym, you know, and it's a very old industry. Equinox is one brand in the US, actually it's a luxury brand, and it's like a club feeling very high, you know, upper scale. It's been around for 20 years, as many clubs. And then you got another company called Peloton, which is started in San Francisco. It's basically using a bike, connected bikes, and delivering learning lesson to the home and to help, you know, coaching fitness. And that company now has more, you know, a market cap than the Equinox. Is actually starting a digital revolution for fitness at home because that's a bigger market. So this is where, I mean, just one of the few of many examples why this is the digital revolution is a bigger challenge. Now, truly, this is a disruptions going on for years. It's just more accelerated. And if you're looking at the lifespan of the average S&P 500, it's constantly shrinking since last, you know, I would say 70 years. It went from 1958, about 61 years, now to today, you know, 2015 is about 18 years. Today's even less. You know, if you're looking at one other statistic, you know, I just turned 50-year-old, so 2000 to me is not too long ago. Maybe for some younger people, that felt very long time. But nevertheless, more than half of the Fortune 500 have merged, acquired, and gone bankrupt since 2000. So that's pretty scary. So if you're looking at this whole thing, and there's truly a big shift in the competitive landscape, right? And if you're looking at you know, this is a chart for kind of a typical manufacturing company, a big international one, and then you know, whether it's B2B, B2C, you have to deliver the best-in-class customer values. It's getting more and more challenging. Like, you know, you need to reduce the time to market. You have to enhance your flexibility and also increase efficiency. And doing all of that, it's already very challenging. And then you have to deal with external factor, right? Because customers become even more demanding and they want more customized, and you get low-cost competitors. But also on the left, you have competitors who have, you know, gone ahead in digital transformation, and they are able to produce products that faster and more automated and cheaper and more personalized. And then you have also large digital native new entrants, and then many more digital native startups unbundle high value added service and revenue stream. And you know, one company in the international shipping logistics, it's a startup called Flexport in San Francisco, and they basically have an end-to-end digital, you know, have visualization of the entire supply chain, which is highly complex when you're shipping, you know, on the ocean from different port to different port. And that company, because of that, has disrupted completely their business and has grown quite sizable in the last few years. So this is really, we see a lot of changes. So therefore, this forced the companies to innovate faster and then transform digitally, you know, or it will be left behind because the speed in the digital space is faster than in the real world. The question is though, you know, how do you transform faster? And so this is where I argue, you know, come back to actionable insight, come back to how do we lead in the time of crisis? It's really about we can act on these, and so we can bring the company forward and not only survive, but thrive in the crisis and beyond. And so, you know, if you're looking at the digital transformation challenge, because always just make this more before there are CEO, CFO, executive on the fences, and they were more using digital tools, but not really transform the company. But after COVID, and this has made it necessity for survive, right? So if you're looking at, there are many challenges the CEOs are facing now. In the past, it was more technology, let's use digital technology, but it's a very big silo, it's not a whole company. And also the board and CEO often don't have, digital insight and not keep up with the latest mindset. So they were a competitive advantage, but now they are actually a liability. And that's compared to some competitors who have a CEO or leadership team have this digital mindset. And then another thing is for traditional company is the lack of digital talent and culture, and that make it really, really hard. And then as the customer also is changing customer demands, experience, and value deliveries, it's become difficult. And this is everywhere. Obviously, I think everybody is familiar in the B2C space, how people purchase, the different from millennial to retired people, different behavior, purchasing behavior. But actually in even B2B, I'll give you an example. Years ago, I actually hosted a visit of an entire management team, including the board, from a European utility company. And one of the challenges they're facing is with energy, is moving from centralized to distributed because of renewable energy, solar and wind, and then also energy storage and rooftop solar. More and more customers are able to generating their own electricity. And then their customers are disappearing, right? Because they're traditional centralized power value chain delivery. And the question is, when customer disappeared, what's their business of the future? And that's a huge multi-billion-dollar question, right? That's why the board came. So this is, again, just an example, but this exists in all industries, no matter where you are. And finally, it's the lagging legacy business model. Many traditional business take a long time to upgrade business model because it's the product, the service, the solution, it just take a long time and to iterate. But given the digital, world and the way you collaborate, the way you source, the way you deliver, and everything has been accelerated, even the way manufacturing. And so this is really, a lot of companies have a hard time to upgrade their business models. And so really in the end, it's really hard to keep up the pace with the market innovation. So therefore, part of the reason I argue is more the traditional model, like closed do-it-all innovation. This started as 100 years ago, Ford and the manufacturing company and GM innovated the business model of the last century, but that's now it's no longer enough. And basically in the closed one, you find the best people and best ideas, and then you develop it within the four walls of the company, and then you try to lead in the market. This has worked very well for years, but it's no longer enough because you really need to think about open up the boundary of the firm and then to speed up your innovation. And then so all these challenges, are linked to the way the corporate has been organized, the innovation engine is being done. And so therefore, it's not just a transformation or new strategy or new initiative is enough. It's more fundamental than that. And I have seen, also practiced at Siemens, but also seeing other firms, open innovation is now after almost 20 years now, as a term invented, coined by Professor Henry Chesbrough at the Haas Business School at Berkeley. But that practice has existed, since the beginning of the business. So it's just being recognized, but this has been rise up with new practice, new maturity. I do think that could be a systematic solution to that. So basically by opening up the company and encouraging, both knowledge flow and then as well your value is extracted, then you can really drive faster, both by taking new technology from outside in different way, as well as licensing or spin off your technology to get money back and to reinvest, to make your R&D investment more efficient rather than sit on many unused R&D assets. So this could be a systematic solution to all of that, I argue. And this is the slide, last slide I want to say before we go to the middle Q&A time. Basically, open innovation has now become a strategic imperative. For a long time, it's being used as an operational tool, Many companies adopted within certain department or certain functions. But I argue, that Siemens, we have practiced that company-wide, and this is really a CEO agenda, both at the, Siemens-wide, worldwide, but also at the division level. Reminds you, Siemens has been an 80 billion euro revenue, and over 200 countries. So really, if you're looking at any corporate of today, you have two jobs, right? One job is value creation on the core business, and this is about sustaining internal innovation. And there you really focus on proven business model that has been tested and proven a long time ago. And now you just need to steer the technology industry, keep gaining market share and building ecosystem. And you can also shape consumer behavior because of your brand, your channels. On the other side, we have new business creation because the technology trends, the market trends, regulatory trends, and now even pandemic, a virus that we cannot see, and feel, but it's causing deadly effect to us, can really change everything. You have to keep creating new business. And so one is for thriving today, another is really for thriving in the future. But in the new business creation, this is more disruptive and require more external innovation. It's often unproven business model and very risky. It requires substantial autonomy and require very different DNA and teams. And so this needs strategic also M&A investment to fill the innovation gap or partnership. So it's a very different skill set. In fact, I argue it's very orthogonal. And I think today's MBA, unlike before, was more focused on the value creation, the management side, sustaining innovation. I think a lot of MBA programs adding the disruptive component because this is what you need both to be the leaders of the tomorrow, business leader of tomorrow. And open innovation offer a framework to really combine both. And to be a very good open innovation leader, you need to be a very good internal innovators, and yet also know how to work with outside. And so that's really, really important. This is the final slide. So there's many different approaches, and I argue go from strategic to functional vertically, and from exploration to exploitation. And there are different approaches. There's hundreds of approaches that can be applied to really occupy this open innovation canvas to really help corporate to explore ideas as well at the company level, at department level, and then to the exploitation, really generating revenue, new service, new products. So I will stop here, and I will have Rafa and then feed me some questions from you guys, and happy to answer any questions and before we move on. And in the next section, I will go look at how open innovation applied to digital transformation and some examples, actually failure examples, and some case study also on successes as well. And then we'll wrap up with some lesson learned. That will be after the Q&A.
Fantastic. Chenyang, thank you very much. I mean, this is a very interesting and very compelling way to start the session by, pointing out what is the challenge ahead and what is that we all are facing, right, with regard to how to cope with digital and with the transformations that this digital era is kind of pulling us all, right, in a way that sometimes is forced, sometimes is driven by the strategy of the company. But you hit the heart of the thing. It's like in the past, this was something that it was a good way to innovate. Now it comes paramount, right? And it becomes like the center of the strategy. There are a few interesting questions in the chat that I'd like to get to you. You haven't written in the chat because actually the students have written them in English. However, I will start with, we can address both. I will start with Mauricio Restrepo, and he's asking, if in one of your digital transformation initiatives, the main challenges have to be, the change in the culture, that, like you said, right, change in the culture. How do you think we could face this specific challenge? I'm guessing, Mauricio, you refer to changing the culture, correct?
Yeah. Okay, so I think regarding the change of the culture, let me have a first confection. Okay, myself, my background was technologist. culture actually, although I had different leadership position for a long time, has been something very abstract until I became the general manager of Siemens, technology business in the Valley, have to interact with all the business around the world. I really, and then also have to deal with the culture, in what I call the culture impedance mismatch between Silicon Valley and the headquarters in Europe and in US. So actually for the 8 years I was running that unit, the culture become more real than anything. But I think the one thing to really about change culture is not just bring another initiative to change it. I think that's the second step, because if you start changing it, if the company is not company leaders and company is not primed, it's going to be a failure. This is my lesson learned, and also as the founding co-chair of Innovation Executive Forum, we have over 200 big brands from all around the world, including Latin America, as well as in Spain and Europe. So it's the same thing. So the way, my way is actually perhaps what's different from what you hear from the McKinsey and BCG consultants. I believe with open innovation, you have opportunity, rather than that market trends drive the strategy, you can bring your CEO and the leadership team to innovation hotspots. It could be in the Silicon Valley, it could be in other locations where the innovation there is relevant for the future of the company, and then have them experience firsthand of different innovators, leaders. I have done once a number of this with Siemens and our customers. I'll give you one quick example. Years ago, Siemens is embarking on digital transformation. I think it was about even 8 years ago now. And then the Siemens actually have 50 business units. Each one is about 2 billion euros revenue on average. So we brought about half of the BU CEOs, over about 30 to Silicon Valley. And then they have been to other hotspots as well, not just Silicon Valley. And really spent 3 days as a team to looking at the different change agents. What are the new control points of the economies coming? What are some new trends? But the part always I felt it helped them tremendously is to make this change real, is to talk to the peers, right? Talk to not only the CEOs of large company, but mid-sized company in that industry segment, but also startups. And so they really feel the change, the speed, the velocity of the innovation. And then the different culture is okay. Actually, in fact, it's thriving to drive the new way of innovating, particularly in the digital era. I remember many CEOs, at the end of summarizing felt they really, this trip make them feel real, and they are convicted. Now they believe in it, and now they know they can drive the changes. And then they went back, right? And one of the CEO went back, drive the entire digital service, and that become the MindSphere today. So, and then in fact, he completely revamped the strategy, right? And going for a more open approach, partnership, not only just build, but also buy, etc., and invest. So therefore, I think this is a critical piece. And this is really an application of open innovation. How do you drive culture change? It's through the open innovation network, you can actually build up leaders much more than what your company have. And then so in connecting them and really driving that so that they become convicted and confidence. Then the rest is implementation. I'm not saying it's easy, but that actually will have a higher chance to step up. And there are a lot more, internal or external team can help. So that's really just in light of time, I just focus on that particular point. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much, Chenyang. Well, there's many questions here. We have, after the next block of content you will deliver, we'll have another Q&A session. So another Q&A moment. Yeah, so the thing is, there's a question here that one way or another, I can see that it's reading through some of the other questions, which is when instead of a big business, when we are talking about small businesses with low investment capacity for new technologies, Juan Castro, for example, is asking, can we compete in this era of digital transformation while being a small business with low investment capacity for new technologies?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm actually a co-founder of a small startup in China, and also advising a number of startups in US. I think absolutely, but it does require a different mindset. Startup is not a small version, a mini version of large company. It has to be done differently. of course, it has to segment between the digital startup, right, versus traditional startup. I think that in the traditional startup, but regardless of the, each other, the core is what are your unique differentiator? What are new things you're offering? Are you going for a blue ocean, market or a red ocean market? I think once you get your value proposition to the market and your unique differentiator figured out, as a traditional startup, you can basically need to adopt the digital strategy, like what I showed you about Tesla, right? And then you can use that also through partnership to build up, your speed. And I have plenty of examples, but for the time, I would just stop there for the traditional startup. For the digital startup, especially if you're artificial intelligence startup or blockchain startup or big data startup, by definition, you need partnership to really get things going. And I've seen hundreds of examples there, and startup can be successful. So the short answer, yes.
I think maybe you can proceed with the rest of the session, and then we can catch up with questions here and there. Do you agree?
So, yeah, we'll come back.
Thank you.
Continue. Yeah. Hold on just a second. Okay. All right. Okay. So I talk about many different approaches, and you can apply open innovation in any dimension you want. But let's look at digital transformation, right? Digital transformation also is not new, right? And this is I like the frame, and there are many ways of looking at it, but I like the way Fujitsu actually articulated it. It's really there's many waves, right? The first wave is more the internet wave, and then the second wave is the mobile internet, and then the third wave is the IoT, and now we're onto the fourth wave, which is really about AI, robotics, and augmented reality, and blockchain and 5G is coming. And so, but you see in each wave, right? The device that get connected, digital device connected to the internet, become more and more, from 1 billion, 10 billion to 50 billion. But here we're only talking device. But if you also think about how many people are not connected digitally, that number will become quite big also. So really, the digital transformation, each wave, there's winners and losers, and each wave requires a different approach. In fact, folks who succeeded maybe in the internet era, when they transition to mobile internet, is not a given, and some of them failed, and some succeeded. And actually, Facebook, one of the reasons it became a big company is it actually managed to transition from the internet era, that's when they started, to the mobile internet, and both using internal development and acquisitions, really aggressive acquisition. But each successive waves drive exponentially more, person to person, person to things, things to things, real-time connectivity, communication, visibility, and decision and action. So technology themselves are not really producing value. It's what they apply to, and it's what, creating the value. But this is really putting even ever more demands and pressure, talking about company business model to go digital and innovate and agile and open, because each wave, the time is getting shorter and the speed become faster. And that's really the challenge. And so really, the challenge is how do you build and scale a company level open innovation capability? And this has become imperative, and as you want to keep up with the change. So let me just show you a case on IBM Watson. I have a big respect for IBM. IBM is one of the longest, thriving technology company. They have managed a number of crises, transform themselves, better than many companies. But when they go from the IT era and to the AI era, and they even that, they also have run into challenge. And then just a highlight is really IBM has, if you saw the TV ads back in 2017, I'm sure you saw a lot of ads from IBM advertising their Watson can, read all the medicine articles on the planet, can, produce better diagnosis than the doctor. But in reality, that project ended up was not successful. And so, basically, it's a clinic decision support. And, there are a lot of very lofty aims, right, about using AI to really read all the knowledge of the human produced, and then be able to give timely diagnosis. So this is still a very, I would say, compelling goal, and then many researchers, engineers are working on that. But after 5 years work with MD Anderson, which is the #1 cancer hospital in the US and in the world, arguably, and this is $62 million they put on hold. So this is just some hype, right? At the time, and you can see a lot of hype at the beginning, and then when it's not working, then media were coming back to kind of trying to see what's really going on, and then there was some reflection. I personally, because I have some understanding of what's going on and observation, I actually think there are many reasons why it was not successful. Technology wasn't ready is one, but another thing is really they're treating AI projects, because AI is now the forefront of digital transformation, as an IT product. The fundamental about AI is really the solution is not guaranteed to work 100%, period, right? No matter how good the algorithm is, how many big data you have, how well you test it, there's always a fail mode. Unlike in an IT product, it's deterministic, and it works, and then so you can build it in a different way. And therefore, the marketings get ahead of itself, and they didn't pursue as more like open innovation, because it's highly risky. Open innovation is very good with dealing with risky project, particularly that by partner with MD Anderson, do not set the goal too high and run a sequence of pilots until these failure modes get addressed and become before it roll out bigger. And that's very different from IT product. IT product, you build a software, second generation, or even the first one. After testing, if it work for maybe hundreds of computers, then they can work for millions of computers. Obviously, there's challenging scaling, but in general, that strategy works, right? Especially if you're a big company like IBM. But that wouldn't work in the AR era that way. And I think since then, IBM has revised the strategy, and then they basically have hired a lot of new people who are more understanding about how to build AR product in healthcare, including many of my former Siemens colleagues. I think now they're more quiet. For the last few years, you don't hear a lot of marketing there, but I think they're one of the leaders now, truly pushing applying AR to medicine forward now. Not like 5-6 years ago when they approached it in the wrong way. And so basically, I would say the open innovation mindset and how you innovate in the AR era, how you do it also become critical. So if you're looking at the AI economy, and this is a data set from BCG, and they categorize like AR champions to aspiring AR leaders, to AR labs, and AR underperformers in terms of countries. And so you can find your country in this chart, but you can see there's actually two giants leading forward, which is United States and China, both in terms of the vertical axis is capacity to innovate, and also on the horizontal axis is the capacity to upgrade the industry. And EU is somewhere, in the middle, and then you have a lot of other countries which are more on the left side. Part of the reason is, some like Israel is really high on the capacity to innovate, but they are not, really high on capacity to upgrade industry for obvious reason. It's because the economy is too small. And Europe, obviously, is challenging if you take individual country because the language and market fragmentation. Because AI era is intrinsically about data. The bigger the data, the more data you have, the better it is, and the more value you can create. So this is why US and China as a homogeneous market has a huge advantage. And again, if you think about the country perspective, you will ask the question, if I'm in Spain or I'm in Brazil or I'm in Argentina, how do I do it, right? So today with digital tools, you can have meetings, you can have relationship. I mean, when the COVID is over, you can fly again. You can build up using open innovation with, your partners in these bigger countries and bigger markets. And so you can then leverage that for driving your growth. So both from a supplier or partner or customer point of view. So let me go through 3 successful examples and to drive the message home. And so the first one is Fujitsu. They started 5 years ago, something called Open Innovation Gateway in Silicon Valley. And Fujitsu is a big technology company from Japan. And they basically, this Open Innovation Gateway not only serve Fujitsu, but also serve customers for new business creation and using the Silicon Valley ecosystem. And so this is really a US, particularly Silicon Valley plus Japan, right? And to drive innovation. The second one is Wipro. Wipro is a giant, global technology company started in India, and they are now everywhere in the world. And they also do a lot of digital technology and solutions. They have a big innovation center presence in the Valley, Silicon Valley. And so this is more India, plus Silicon Valley to really drive their global innovation. The last one is Siemens. And this example is a global example. It's both Europe and US plus China. And the example actually happens in China. It's in a traditional industry. Okay. So let's look at the Fujitsu. First of all, I want to thank, my friend and Ryuma, Hoshi and Dave Mavitt. They're running the Fujitsu ORG and they provide the case. So they have done a lot of projects and generating a lot of business value as shown on the left side. This is one of the many examples, and this is with Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank is one of the oldest banks in Japan. And then their project is really about figure out the possibility of a new growth area. How do you use a blockchain technology in the commercial real estate business? So the problem is there's a asymmetry of the information exists between the real estate owners and investors, and it makes it difficult for the investors to judge, whether a particular real estate offering a high quality. And so the trust bank wants to offer a way using digital tools, to ease the asymmetry and then hope to create a new market. And so the objective is they want to have, transparency. Validity information is very important, and so you cannot change it. This is why blockchain offer advantage, because it's a open ledger, make it impossible to change it compared to the traditional way. And then they can really explore a lot of expand their business opportunity. So the results, they through a customer journey, they have their own like open innovation canvas, and really bring their customer trust bank to the Valley and go through different workshops. In the end, help them to really articulate vision and that new business. And so the general manager of the trust bank on this example actually said, help them to really with many small wins, eventually, explore these unforeseen business that they are not familiar, and then also get their full management, team on board. It's very important. And so this is again, linked back to the IBM approach. In the new era, especially with a lot of new technology, there's some more intrinsic risk. And then the company who want to adopt them do not necessarily understand them. And so open innovation allow you to have a way to test, do a lot of small wins to really gain up the confidence and build up the support of the leadership team. And that also will drive culture change, to one of the early questions as example. So basically the lesson learned is really about to succeed with digital transformation, you have to strategically select the capability that can provide your competitive advantage. And then you can use utilizing digital technology, even though you are not in the digital space. And then you have to manage carefully, which is the hardest part in open innovation, the core business and the new growth business. This is really a lot of tension, friction happens, but there is a way to do that. The next example is, the Wipro. And this is thanks for Nitin Nathid. He's the general manager at Wipro Technology in Silicon Valley. And they are working with basically, on the airline industry, trying to have a unified cargo management. It's not about people transportation, but cargo. Actually, it's incredibly complex. If you're looking at both from the service provider and the logistics, and there's just a lot of touch points. And then the goal is they want to really transform this. And so this is where traditionally you can just go through a few customers, develop your solution and roll it out. But that's very long time and cost can be very high. But in this case, it's actually they find the customer, which is Qatar Airways, and that they want to really leap forward and then transform digitally to have a complete unified digital management of the cargo rather than the siloed process. And then by coming together with open innovation, they share the risk and they share the success. And so this gave Wipro really ahead to their competitors, a whole open insight to a leading airline company and co-develop a solution that truly works. And so basically, they really help to address information flow, visibility, et cetera, particularly end to end. And then they want to build a automated and manage the entire cargo business lifecycle, from sales to accounting. Is pretty ambitious. And in the end, they did that, and that was a success. And in that, it created competitive advantage for both companies. Qatar Airways has one of the world's leading unified cargo management, so allow them to be more efficient, reduce cost, and then more satisfied customers. And also they get solution much cheaper because they are the co-partners, and they can actually have the solution more tailored to them. And then Qatar, and then the Wipro, have a happy customer, and they can take that solution to other airlines as well, right? So that's kind of a very interesting example. The next one is on the Siemens with Baowu Steel. This is one of the world's biggest steel company in China. And then the Siemens is actually from top down. Germany and China signed something called the Intelligent Manufacturing 4.0, which is linked with in China, linked to the Industry 4.0 from Germany. And then with Baowu and Siemens as the two signature company of both countries, they actually signed this joint multi-year agreement. And then you can see this drawing actually touch with many aspects of the plant. It's pretty ambitious, right? From mining all the way to plant management and to intelligence and smart marketing. And then in Siemens, the way it's truly a global corporation, but managed by the China team. And this is actually from Jianming Chen. He's heading that project of Siemens Baowu in China, and really looking at from the management layer to the field layer and to the equipment. And in all these, 80% of the things Siemens offer would satisfy the Baowu requirement, but 20% require new innovation. It's just like Wipro with particular with the Qatar, here Siemens with Baowu, and they co-innovate. And in co-innovate, some will be built internally, but through open also a partnership between Siemens team of different countries. That's also very important. That's another application of open innovation. It's inside a big company. But on the other side, also there are solutions Siemens just cannot provide. Either we're missing we have some gaps in our product portfolio or service portfolio, or we just need some new product to be integrated because we provide a complete solution. And that can be sourced from other partners, and not always is off the shelf. Sometimes bringing other co-innovation partner to really focus on that case. And then obviously with that done, then Siemens can resell that solution to other customers as well. So it significantly speed up, you can see the innovation. And this is a very different paradigm from the past approach. So I will end this talk with this final slide, back to our strange new world, and then we'll do some more Q&A. So I'm just moving here. So I think the few takeaway I want for the students here. One is really leadership is the most important, matters if you're trying to drive open innovation and digital transformation. A CEO and board need to get it and need to own it and need to drive the transformation journey from the top. And there are ways, if you are not a CEO on the board, if you are one of the business leaders or experts, there are ways to influence up and to get the CEO and board on board. But you need to get them on board first. Then once they are on board, you work on the strategy in that order. You can adopt open innovation. You can build and partner by digital competence to accelerate transformation. I mentioned the example of Siemens digital industry, the digital service CEO, right? He built the whole thing, eventually became the MindSphere for Siemens, which is the industrial IoT operating system of all Siemens business units. But that starts from him, he get it, right? And his team get it, and then he move on, build a strategy. And that can take months or years to build, and then long time to execute, and in that order. The third one, we always say business, and we look at product, business, process, but the most important thing is the people. We need to get the right people on board. Once you have leadership on, you have strategy, you get the right people, Jim Collins said on the bus, you get the wrong people off the bus, right? And then, but in the era of, open innovation and digital transformation, it's a different skill set, right? And you guys on the MBA program, you're learning these. So you are the talents that company will seek for. but not all the talents in the company are. I mean, so you need to identify and develop, empower these people, experts or leader, to lead the transformation and then give unwavering support. And this is why the CEO and strategy has to go before that. And then they can get the backup and they can really go drive it and execute it. And then after that, of course, in many companies, especially large company or mid-sized company, you just cannot succeed without the process, right? But you can have a lean process and you can define these transformation objective, milestones, KPIs, deliverable, anything matters, and then drive transparency and trust. What I call the TNT is very important, and through consistent, regular communication with all stakeholders. Because one thing a lot of business leaders and experts, when they drive the changes, sometimes they're so focused on, it's already more than enough full-time job and deliver a milestone KPI, and they didn't maintain enough transparency and trust through communication, constant communication. That can hurt them afterwards. And then customers, right? We have to be customer-centric, and digital tools allow you to do that. Open innovation allow you to do that, right? And then you can co-create and innovate, and you can lead really long-term strategic project, turn that into an advantage. Then you can multiply and to other customers. Finally, ecosystem. Again, we see more and more the word ecosystem in the last decade because digital tools allow us to do that. The new open innovation mindset allows you to do that at the scale never before. So that's really it. And I think if you do all of the above, and then obviously with your experience and know-how, this new strange word would not feel strange, but it will feel home again. So, and that's my context. And feel free to send me an email or send me a LinkedIn request and ask questions or stay in touch. So that's it. So Rafa, we can do some more questions, however time left. Thank you.
Chenyang, wow. My brain is, sparkling from and jumping in and out from many different kind of inputs that you provided and insights. Well, it's truly impressive, and something that I get from your insightful explanations and examples, very powerful examples, by the way, is that no matter how big is the company, it's about how big is the challenge, right? You mentioned an example like that one of Siemens. Siemens is a huge company.
Yeah.
I mean, the challenges they face are from, I don't know, I'm talking about the past as well, like from trains to hospitals, to, also, to airports. So basically the thing here is not the size of your company, but it's the multiple constituencies and players that are around any company now that can be addressed through digital, right? That in the past, this was not possible, right? So even if you own a small shop in a neighborhood, then you can do things now that you couldn't do ever in the past. And the magnitude of the challenge is equally big for you, owner of the shop, than for the CEO of Siemens, with regard to the same core factor you mentioned, which is that you need these different companies around you to kind of help you with the challenge and, get innovation, open innovation from those players. Thank you very much, Chenyang. There's many questions in the chats and many comments. I don't know if any one of you is willing to ask the question verbally. I would like to hear your voices. We don't have much time. I want to be mindful with your schedule, Chenyang, and also with the schedule of the students. But if we have like 5 minutes for a couple of questions, that would be fantastic. Is there a student that is willing to ask Chenyang right now? Question as well. Questions here in the in the chat that I will use some of them, right? There's one here, Chenyang, which is about Latin America. Sure. We have many students that either come from there or work in companies there or have customers there. So the question from JM Castillo is, In a startup company, in any company standard in Latin America, mid-size, according to your experience, Chenyang, what is the percentage between culture, talent, and wish to innovate and resources required to innovate? So the question is about the balance, how much is needed in the process. It's about talent, it's about resources, it's about culture again. What is that you need in order to innovate?
Yeah, I think it's hard to quantify that. I have traveled to Brazil. We have done projects in Brazil and Chile, mining actually. But Brazil, we have done the startup challenge, Siemens and Open Innovation. I think the Latin America, actually, the entrepreneurship, the innovation spirit, actually, I was surprisingly, it's actually very high in the world. I think it's one of the most innovative place. But regarding the culture, resource, the mindset, innovation, I think rather than looking at the percentage in the process, I would say it's segmenting in terms of time and levels of the company, right? Certain thing you need to lay all the ground, right, at the beginning. For example, I mentioned you need to get the board, CEO on board, and regardless where you are, and that's very important. And then if they get that right, their job is to really change the culture so that the culture is a context to innovate. If culture is not right, all the innovators, no matter how you try, you won't have a big success. So that is the beginning and top level, but in collaboration with the leaders in the middle to get it right. I think that's worth to spend time rather than jump to innovation project. But of course, you can do a sequence of small projects to give example, give confidence. But as this is, done properly, you're more into really innovation journey, transformation journey digitally. Then it's more about getting the right talent. It's more about get the project selection, metric, execution. Those become more important. I would kind of look at that way.
There's also a question here, very interesting, and it's very close to the motto and the mindset of Westfield regarding the taking care of people, planet, and profit. The question is it's written in the chat in Spanish, is how we can put together this digital innovation transformation with the clear message Alejandro Lopez says that this pandemic is delivering to the world with regard to taking care of the planet and regarding sustainability. How we combine taking care of the planet and sustainability mindset with this digital transformation and innovation.
Yeah, I think this is a really excellent question. It's a longer answer. I try to do it in a minute. First of all, I think the digital transformation and digital tools, open innovation, lend themselves better for getting your message out to the world because you have partners, you have digital means. But the other thing, I think you need to get the message right. A social message would not go far, right? And also, you particularly get your project right. It's really having that impact to taking care of the planet and people and profit, right? In that order. And so I think I think a lot of companies only look at the immediate customer, or maybe the customer. I think it's important to think about, the end impact to the society, to the planet, get that out. Collaborating with the leaders, with your communication department or outside PR, get that crystallized, your strategy. How is what you're doing impact the world? Everybody do that, any action you do will impact the society. The question is, do you know about it? Do you know explicitly? Can you articulate that in a compelling manner? If you get that messaging down properly, you get the true projects, your product or solution is indeed doing what you said, then you can use, digital transformation, open innovation to really multiply that and of course use good PR to get that off. So, and social media actually these days are cheap, scalable platform. And I see a lot more company embracing LinkedIn and Twitter. Are really posting all the time. I've seen that left and right for all companies. Traditionally was hard, and these days, I almost see daily from leaders, at different levels. So everybody can really help the company get the message out, but you need to have a core. So then, if you think about let's see, a 5,000 people company versus a 50,000 people company, if they all seeing the same core message in different way, how they benefit society, how powerful that would be. And that's also open innovation way on messaging. So.
Thank you very much. Well, Ignacio, I think we covered a lot. We expanded almost 10 minutes more than expected. Thank you, Chenyang, for your generosity and for your wisdom and for sharing with us all your experience and knowledge. It's been a true pleasure and an honor. Ignacio, I let you continue with final words for the session.
Thank you very much, Rafa. It's been a great honor having you. Chenyang, your talk connects very well with Westfield, with what we do and what we expect to do in the world, and with our mission too. So it's been a great honor and a great pleasure to have you with us today. I'm sure this is going to be very profitable for our students, and thank you again for being with us today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody, and and all the best.